Manchester United 3, Fulham 2. An extremely important win for the Red Devils, sprinkled with the nice dose of Manchester United DNA. What happened behind the scenes tactically at Old Trafford? Without further ado, let's analyze. Alright, let's get started with this tactical analysis video. First, by looking at a key area of improvement for Manchester United and Michael Carrick. And it is Manchester United's defensive shape. So out of possession in the games against Manchester City and Arsenal, Michael Carrick, rightly so, has adopted a 4-4-2 formation. It's very compact, it's quite defensive, using Bruno and Bemu, especially here to mark the likes of Rodri and Zubimendi out of the game. Most of the vertical progression of the likes of Arsenal and Manchester City goes through these two players. This also kind of like restricts spaces in between the lines, and also it offers a lot of redundancies on the right and left-sided half spaces, two areas that both Manchester City and Arsenal like to target. So again, this was kind of like the obvious choice for Manchester United and Michael Carrick in these games against Manchester City and Arsenal. But the key question is, how would Michael Carrick set up defensively? How would Manchester United under Michael Carrick press a team like Fulham, a team that we are expected, on paper at least, to dominate, to be much better than? And so this game has provided us with a few responses. Of course, Manchester United have adopted that same, compact 4-4-2 shape in the press, but in quite a few instances, we actually went quite aggressive with our press, aiming to man-mark the Fulham defenders and midfielders in the build-up. Here, for example, Kobbie Mainoo pressing really high, to mark Senderberg out of the game. But of course, what this did, especially with the ball players, Cuenca and especially Joaquin Anderson over here that Fulham has, is that they were actually able to play through this press and then just render it absolutely obsolete and useless. This sequence especially it just highlights in a more glaring fashion the limitations of this approach that Michael Carrick has chosen. For example, here, Kobbie Mainoo is right behind the two strikers. Casemiro, we know that he doesn't really have the legs, so basically he stayed a little bit more conservative with his press, which meant that Kobbie Mainoo had to effectively mark two players, Iwobi and Senderberg, in the middle of the pitch, which is extremely impossible. Look, that's a big area for him to mark. As you can see here, he's kind of like pointing to Iwobi, as you can see, to whoever is behind him, the likes of Cunha or Casemiro, whoever is in a position to come and mark Iwobi, to provide him with the support required, because he cannot mark these two players by himself. So he makes the decision to go towards Senderberg. And then as this trio of Manchester United players try to press with more intensity, Kobbie Mainoo again finds himself in a very tough situation. Does he go towards Senderberg, or does he actually cover Iwobi, who was moved in his blind side? Again, this is actually very good defensive awareness and positional awareness from Kobbie Mainoo, again, just showing his maturity despite his young age. But also it shows the effectiveness of this Senderberg and Iwobi pivot, and why sometimes it's important to tweak your approaches based on the opposition. The way Fulham plays is not the way Manchester City and Arsenal play. So effectively here, Berg again finds himself in a lot of space. A player who's not that dissimilar to Michael Carrick when he was a player. Again, he was able to dictate the game because our press was not really effective. But this ended up biting us in the butt because, again, the same approach of being quite aggressive, as you can see here, both Casemiro and, well, this was Ugarte after Casemiro has left the pitch, and Kobbie Mainoo are pressing really high, which leaves this huge gap between what is supposed to be the double pivot and the defensive line with Maguire over here. And I've said on my X account that this Fulham team is quite boring, but I mean it as a compliment in that there's nothing really extravagant with the way they play, but what they're good at is that they do the basics right. And if you put them in a situation like this, where being rational and being extremely, basic and foundational play focus means that they can be extremely dangerous. And that's exactly what they did, because here the play is quite obvious, and that's exactly what Senderberg is going to do. He knows that the ball is going to go over the Manchester United midfield. And then, of course, he's a player with great vision and great passing range. And that's how Fulham were able to get the Jimenez penalty, which got them back in the game. Now, in the second half, also, you may have noticed that Fulham were able to claw back control of the game. And the main reason behind that is because I think that Michael Carrick, the likes of Steve Holland, for example, have seen that the way Manchester United was pressing was simply ineffective, and it was allowing Fulham to play through us, and it was just a matter of time before they were able to find way to goal. So we saw a Manchester United that was a little bit more conservative, again going back to that 4-4-2 shape with here in this case Cunha and Bruno Fernandes trying to prevent Sander Berg from dictating the game. But anyway, this is an area of improvement. It could have cost us the game. Luckily, we were able to score. This is definitely something that Michael Carrick definitely need to look into ahead of the upcoming fixtures. But enough of that. Now let's talk about some positive plays, because one key question before this game against Fulham was that a lot of Manchester United fans, me included, I know many of you watching this video definitely have or share the same sentiment, which is we reserve judgment until we see Manchester United and Michael Carrick against a team that plays a more conservative style, that does not really give us a lot of spaces in order for us to play the transitional football that we know Manchester United enjoys. And so this game against Fulham was a great opportunity to see how Michael Carrick would actually attempt, or what kind of plan would he draft out in order to be able to unlock a stubborn defense like that of Fulham. So here what we saw was absolute genius from Michael Carrick. It's seminal, it's very simple, but at the same time it is extremely elegant in what he was trying to achieve and how he achieved it. So again, Manchester United were building up in a 3-2 shape. The third is Diogo Dalot, who you don't see on the frame here. He's somewhere around here. Not that dissimilar to the one that we've seen under Ruben Amorim. But Michael Carrick uses Luke Shaw in a much more effective way, because Luke Shaw here is designed to kind of like drag these Fulham players more towards the left-hand side of the pitch. The reason behind that is that it's a bait and switch type of strategy, because Amad Diallo is actually stretching the pitch on the other side. So here Kobbie Mainoo, who was absolutely great in distributing the ball and in changing to the opposite flank, right here with the trademark long ball. He was absolutely excellent in this game towards Amad. Why is that? Because Amad is left-footed, so it allows him, it's just the perfect angle for him to play these diagonal balls towards these half spaces, towards runners who were able to make these moves right here. And the whole point is to create that isolation between the Manchester United forwards and the opposition, the Fulham defenders. So again, that pattern of play is exactly the same pattern of play that has led to that Bruno Fernandes free kick and that Casemiro goal. Because again, the same play here with Diogo Dalot, who's going to be switching to the left-hand side. Again, same thing as you can see, Chukwueze, who's supposed to be the widest player for Fulham, is actually quite central in his positioning. Again, just showing how narrow the Fulham formation was. But again, Manchester United were able to use that incredibly well, because again, instead of Bruno, this is Cunha. And then now with this angular pass again from Amad, we are able to create a 1v1 situation. And Matheus Cunha is absolutely great in these situations. So he's able to provoke the foul. It could have been a penalty. But of course, we were able to score from the resulting free kick. Great delivery again from Bruno. And then Casemiro, who is absolutely insane in set-piece situations. And another great game, great goal. But again, we got that goal because of a clear pattern of play. Again, bait the Fulham players towards one area of the pitch and then quickly switch to the opposite flank, create 1v1 situations, and that's how you're able to create goal-scoring chances. But there is another thing. Another thing I talked about on my X account was that I know that the majority of you watching my videos, because I do have the demographic data, are about my age or more or less 10 years. Okay, so I know that the majority of you watching this video have watched Manchester United under Sir Alex Ferguson. And there's just this great feeling when you watch Sir Alex Ferguson Manchester United team, is that we had this knack, this tendency of just camping in the opposition's half and then just suffocating the opposition and just relentless attack after attack. And you just had this feeling that a goal was coming. You had no evidence that it was happening, but you just felt that it was coming. And more often than not, it was actually a goal. So when I rewatched the game after the initial viewing, I was adamant that I needed to find out why were Manchester United able to replicate that feeling. And I think that it all has to do with counter-pressing. I think that in this game, we saw a Manchester United team that in some phases of play was extremely good at counter-pressing. So for example, here, the moment Fulham are about to clear the ball, you have Amad here initiating that press, forcing, Iwobi to go with, a sub-ideal pass. And then Diogo Dalot is ready to pounce and ready to just nick the ball from Chukwueze, and that way we are able to maintain the pressure. This was in the lead up to our second goal, the Mateus Cunha goal. As you can see here, again, Bruno Fernandes initiating that press against Iwobi again, and as the ball goes wide towards Chukwueze, Kobe Mainoo is already in a good position to collect the ball. And of course, just a minute after that, we were able to score the second goal. As you can see here, Mateus Cunha is asking for the ball, but what I love about Casemiro, the fact that we are going to have to play against this Casemiro at the World Cup really scares the bejesus out of me. If you told me we were playing Brazil from a year ago before Ancelotti, I'd be like, look, we beat them 2-1 in friendly. We can do it again, in the US, Mexico, and Canada. But this Casemiro is absolutely world class. He just oozes aura. This is scary. This is fucking scary, okay? So anyway, here, he's already, look, that was really quick, like a split second. But you already kind of saw where Mateus Cunha was positioned. So then now, the moment he receives the ball, he already knows what he's going to do with it. And this is the hallmark of a world-class player. This is what it comes down to. And then, if you look at the highlights and you look at the close-up of Casemiro, you realize this was actually a no-look pass. Mateus Cunha's positioning also is absolutely great right here in that half space between the left-sided centre-back and the left-back. It's extremely hard to defend against. And then that's just a great run by him, great pass by Casemiro, and an absolute smashing finish. And then, of course, Manchester United were able to win the game with that final goal, the Benjamin Sesko goal. But this goal, actually, both of those concepts have come together in order for us to be able to score. First of all, as soon as, we had our kickoff, we put Fulham under extreme pressure, forcing them to give us the ball. Again, showing that intensity, that intent to go ahead and win the game. And from that, again, is that situation where you create that isolation. In this case, it was between Bruno Fernandes and Calvin Bassey. And then, come on, guys. Look, there was a lot of debate about whether we should sell Bruno Fernandes in order to finance a rebuild in the summer. And I was one of the people who were against that. I made a video talking about that. And again, I've been vindicated. This is world-class talent. When you look at the likes of Xavi Simons or Florian Wirtz, again, very good players, extremely talented. But there is no guarantee you're going to get the same returns. Keeping a player like Bruno Fernandes is, to me, much safer, much smarter, much more strategic, even if he would fetch, 120, 150 million, than actually betting on, the next shiny toy out there, So anyway, that was a great pass, a great dribble, great pass. And then Sesko, this was an absolute smashing finish. To me, I felt like when I heard and listened to, Rust in Peace by Megadeth for the first time, it was a sort of a tornado of souls of some sort, But anyway, great way to win the game. But before I let you go, I need to talk to you about this, this clip right here. This is the lead up to Kevin's goal. It was a great goal from an individual skill perspective, on Kevin's part. But when it comes to defending, I think there is a lot that is left to be desired from Manchester United, because I feel that we struggle a lot in these situations. So look at that. Ahmad is pointing to Mazraoui to go towards Kevin. I'm not sure this is the right choice. In these kind of situations, you want the winger to go and engage this player, while you want your defender, who is theoretically better at defending, to actually stay close to goal and close to the centre back in these kind of areas. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So Mazraoui goes wide, and then Ahmad does his duty, and he stays with the player right there. But then here, as you can see, Ahmad is here. How did that happen? Well, that's actually because even though Mazraoui was going towards Kevin, so did Ahmad. But what you want to do in those situations is actually let Mazraoui with Kevin, because what's going to happen is that Mazraoui is going to push him more towards the inside. Eventually, when he comes inside in this area, you still have Ugarte and Ahmad who are going to prevent him from taking the shot. But of course, we didn't do that. With Ahmad going into that area, and Ugarte, who is just not good, for a player we purchased, for his defensive contributions, he's not that smart when it comes to defensive positioning. We find ourselves in a situation where Kevin has a free highway for him to move into this space and score this scorcher of a goal. To me, it's unfair to Lamens, because I think he was good enough and he kind of deserved a clean sheet. But anyway, so this performance against Fulham raises three important questions, in my opinion. The first one is, tactical. So Michael Carrick has shown in the games against Arsenal and Manchester City that he's more than capable of coming up with a solid plan, an underdog plan, a plan that prevents the opposition from playing the game that they want to play, and finding avenues to score goals against them. Plans that allow us to beat teams that are, at least on paper, better than we are. But now the question is, when you play against the Fulhams, against the Nottingham Forests, against the Brentfords of the league, then how do you set up defensively? How do you press them? How do you, handle the amount of possession that you have versus the amount of possession that they have? And this is definitely something that I'm going to be paying close attention to in the upcoming games, because in my opinion, it's literally what's going to define whether Michael Carrick has a realistic shot at becoming, the permanent Manchester United manager in the summer or not, because he needs to show and demonstrate that he can play a variety of styles against a variety of opponents. But so far, 3 wins in 3 games, that's a great start. May it continue result-wise, but also tactically, I would like to see a little bit more from Michael Carrick. The second thing is Casemiro. Again, he was absolutely amazing in this game, which kind of gives us a massive headache, because on the one hand, I 100% agree that he needs to go, and I think now it's a fact that he's going at the end of the season. He's not getting any younger. He earns too high of wages that don't really justify the kind of impact that he has on the pitch over the course of his stay at Manchester United. Also, I think that the way we play at the moment kind of suits him best, because we play in a very compact way. He doesn't really need to cover a lot of space. Plus, it maximizes his impact in the final third. All of this makes him look good. He is definitely a class player, but I think that our system kind of helps him shine a little bit. But I think that this is great. The fact that he can leave Manchester United on a high note like this, to me, is great. I really like him as a player. He's absolutely amazing. But the headache that we have now is, how do we replace him? And then finally, Kobbie Mainoo, who again, 3 games since Ruben Amorim has left, and 3 wins and 3 great performances from Kobbie Mainoo, which in my opinion kind of raises a key question at Manchester United with relation to youth development, discipline, club culture, accountability, responsibility, because when you look at it, I mean, hindsight is always 20/20. And as you know from my videos, I always back the managers when they take, a stance on, discipline and culture, when they want to stamp on their, authority on the group. After all, that was one of the hallmarks of Sir Alex Ferguson's reign at the helm of Manchester United. But now, looking back at what Ruben Amorim did, is it justified? I don't think so. And this is not just protecting Kobbie Mainoo or just talking highly of Kobbie Mainoo and, belittling Ruben Amorim's ability as a man manager. But I just think that Ruben Amorim kind of shot himself in the foot, because, thinking back on this, I think that Kobbie Mainoo would have provided way more balance in Ruben Amorim's system, which ironically could have led to Ruben Amorim actually staying any longer, because I think the results could have been a little bit more positive, with Bruno Fernandes playing more ahead and then Kobbie Mainoo alongside Casemiro in the double pivot. Just nurturing Kobbie Mainoo, in my opinion, could have had a much bigger and much more positive impact on our results than the decision that Ruben Amorim and the choice that he has made. So anyway, guys, I hope that you've enjoyed this tactical analysis video. If you did, please give the video the thumbs up and leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Until next time, cheers.